Now, if he really does the 145% tariffs, then yeah, that's maniacal. That'll, it can't possibly work. It'll destroy the economy. Guess who also agreed with that? Donald Trump.
Piers Morgan just revealed some of the most anticipated prediction of Trump's economic policies and America's trade war with other countries. The debate immediately heated up, leaving some serious concerns over the questions raised by the individuals on the show.
It's been 4 months of what appears to be chaos. Trump would argue controlled chaos, and that he's begun to do some big deals, and that the markets are pretty much as strong as they were, if not stronger, than before Liberation Day. What is your take? Because obviously the Labour numbers came out a couple of days ago, which showed that they were revising back to pretty low numbers, which indicates that perhaps the real impact of the tariffs haven't been fully factored in yet. Give me your expert assessment.
Who can forget the Liberation Day that forced the markets to respond brutally? The U.S. stock indices plummeted in one of their steepest multi-day declines since the 2020 crash. At that time, everyone believed this was a do-or-die situation for both the United States and the countries with which the U.S. president was waging a trade war.
Okay, bottom line is we just don't know yet. It's too early to make a judgment. And I'll say 2 key points. Firstly, Goldman Sachs used to teach its new recruits to distinguish between goal, strategy, and tactics. I think it's critical to do that with the Trump administration, because the goal in general is to make America great and make the Trump family wealthy, I'd argue. The strategy is to reorganize or reorientate the world's global financial, economic, and trading system.
That's true. Although the U.S. seems to have benefited from the imposed trade wars, there's another side to the coin here. The U.S. economy did grow at a 3.3% annual rate in Q2, but much of that came from a sharp fall in imports rather than new productivity or investment. So it might have appeared to be fruitful for now, but will it remain the same for the country in the future? Economists warn that cutting imports may lift GDP in the short term, but over time, it risks slowing business growth if companies can't source the goods they need.
And the tactics are all the tariffs, the drama, the threats, the bullying, etc., etc. And it's important not to confuse the tactics from the strategy, let alone the goal. Now, if you're asking, has Trump team managed to reorientate the wider global financial and trading system? Well, the answer is yes, absolutely. They are en route to doing that in a way that's very shocking for many people who grew up in the neoliberal order or the post-World War II Keynesian order.
Having a growing economy doesn't mean that the plan of the Trump administration is eternally successful. The government needs to keep the strategies in check at all times. For example, tariffs often act like a delayed tax. Consumers may not feel the pinch right away, but higher prices can gradually work their way into food, cars, electronics, and household goods. A 2019 Federal Reserve study found that the Trump-era tariffs raised producer prices significantly within a year, suggesting today's impact could also grow with time.
You're asking, has this helped the economy to boom or not? We just simply do not know yet, because thus far, the tariffs have not had nearly as damaging an impact on the economy as people had feared on Liberation Day. That may be because Trump was right and the economists were wrong. It may also be because we're seeing a massive time lag effect, because massive companies have stockpiled lots and lots of goods, and they're still basically using up those stockpiles, and so we won't know for several months.
Exactly. Even with the U.S. economy receiving a boost, many businesses are still reluctant to expand or hire aggressively because they don't know which tariffs will stick or whether more are coming their way in the near future. S&P Global warns that prolonged tariff uncertainty can weigh on long-term competitiveness and supply chain stability.
Now, Cenk, would you like to make a similar admission that you were completely wrong in painting your apocalyptic warnings?
Are you insane? I was completely right. So let's break it down. So there was 2 parts of that conversation. One was, I said, Trump's putting 145% tariffs. These will never last. They're maniacal. There's no chance that he follows through on them. Who was right and who was wrong? There's literally something named taco. Trump always chickens out. That's how right I was.
Back in the days when the Liberation Day tariffs were announced, Cenk Uygur made some pretty bold and decisive predictions in several interviews.
Sometimes we hear that the tariffs are going to be permanent, other times we hear they're negotiable. But there does seem to be a strategy.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And here's two different strategies, but I don't think that Donald Trump has made up his mind. So the one strategy is, no, these are for the long run. That's what Trump keeps saying. I don't believe him at all, but he says that. And I think he does partly mean it, but I'll get back to why at the end I don't think that's going to be the case. But he says, no, I'm going to rebuild manufacturing. So this is going to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. We're going to keep all of these in place. And then at the same exact time, he's got his Treasury Secretary and other officials going, no, don't worry. We're negotiating with 50 countries, 70 countries, China, Korea, and they're all going to give us concessions, and they're temporary, and they'll be gone soon. So you can't have it both ways. Those are two different strategies.
All things considered, his analysis was remarkably sharp and spot on, given the situation at the time, when the whole country was immersed in chaos and severe tension over the potential cutoff of trade from the entire world. Big companies like Tesla and Apple had their trade and manufacturability on the line after the ban on imports and high tariffs alike. Cenk's prediction seemed to be the accurate depiction of what was going to happen in a couple of months. And while the U.S. has not received a setback yet, Cenk Uygur still thinks the economy play here hasn't finished yet, and the U.S. may still be in a state of economic peril.
They even made a name for it. And I'd like to serve some tacos at Kari Lake today. So on that portion, indisputably correct. Okay. So now the second portion is, are the tariffs going to hurt the economy? Our conversation wasn't. Now, Bill Maher, I don't know why he does that. Look, I like that Bill talks to people on the other side. I like that Bill's reasonable about what Trump got right or wrong, right? But nobody said there was going to be an apocalyptic depression, especially when he pulled back most of the tariffs. So people thought if he really does the 145% tariffs, then yeah, that's maniacal. That'll, it can't possibly work. It'll destroy the economy. Guess who also agreed with that? Donald Trump.
While the present statistics remain optimistic for the economy, the Penn-Wharton budget model projects that Trump's April 2025 tariffs could cut long-run GDP by about 6%, slash wages by around 5%, and impose a $22,000 lifetime cost on an average middle-income household. That's far worse than what we are getting in the benefits today, and that's exactly what Cenk warned about when the tariffs first hit the global market.
That's why he pulled them back, right? So still, now there's way too many tariffs. So when it's at about 18.3% overall, that's 6 times higher than it used to be. So now it is beginning to have effect. So it's not 145, it didn't kill the whole trade, right? But still, that's beginning to hurt trade. It didn't get applied for a long, long time. It's now being applied, and what's happening? Job numbers are going down. The GDP in the last 6 months, clearly much lower than it was during the last 2 years of Biden. So if you thought the Biden economy was bad, this one is worse.
Wondering what would happen if these tariffs were upheld for a longer span of time? Well, Yale's Budget Lab answered the question when it found even broader economic harm. Tariffs may lower real GDP by 0.5 percentage points per year in 2025 and 2026, shrink the long-run economy by 0.4%, roughly $125 billion annually, and reduce payroll employment by about 505,000 jobs by the end of 2025. Unemployment could rise 0.3 to 0.7 percentage points. How will this benefit the Americans? Suppose we're proud enough to support the Republican president over the growing economy despite the sudden dips in imports. Will we be able to endure the hardships when the real side effects of these tariffs begin to take effect? Highly doubtful and unlikely, just like Cenk Uygur exclaimed.
Now, at the same time, like we said, since he pulled almost all the monstrous tariffs back, we haven't really begun to see the effects. And by the way, I don't know how long he's going to go with this, right? So if he stays at around 15 to 20%, that number is still way too high and will start to have significant impacts on our economy, as we're beginning to see now.
With Americans feeling a sigh of relief that no adversities have been faced since the tariffs were announced, Kari Lake and Cenk Uygur promptly uncovered why sitting ducks and celebrating this temporary success were a bad idea. With the concept shaping up to be a long-term one, Cenk and Lake warned that it would be risky to let the same plan continue even when the economy has taken a temporary boost.